Hey everybody, this is John Barker with PTW Solutions. Today I wanted to do a short tutorial on USA Spending and Sam.gov, looking for opportunities. So it's important to know the market you want to be bidding in. So I like to go to usaspending.gov, do a keyword search. Let's say I'm into facility management. I want to search for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years. And let's see what we get here. You can type in whatever you want: logistics, transportation, organizational development, so on and so forth. And if a contract has that in the description, you are going to find it using the keyword search. Apparently it didn't. There we go. So I got to hit that little magnifying glass and do it again. All right, so I got 5,200 different contracts in the prevailing period. Lots of other interesting things you can do is sort this by location, by agency. If you know specific competitors you want to research, you can type them in here, get all their federal contract awards. As you level up, you'll start looking at specific contracts and specific vehicles. As a matter of fact, I want to sort. Yeah, I got some loans and direct payments I don't want in there. So I'm going to go award type and just select for contracts and vehicles. And let's just say I want to look for recipient type. I want to look for large businesses only. All right, so let's do that. Submit the search. So now I got a list of all other than small businesses, which is large. I'm going to take a look at a couple things. Recipients, so we can look at all the big companies that are doing facilities management, and they're all large businesses. So that's important if you want to kind of break into federal government contracting. One of the most expeditious ways is to get a subcontract with a large business, especially if you are a woman-owned, a service-disabled, veteran-owned, a minority-owned business, because they are the largest are obligated to outsource a lot of their work to 20, 23, 30% to smalls, 5% to women and veterans, at 3% to hubs, and so on and so forth. So that's a good way to kind of target some work now. Some of the other things is, as well as, you can kind of target when some of these contracts are going to be ending. And you can easily just download this table and do whatever kind of search you want to do. Basically, this government contracting is so huge, it can be very overwhelming. But if you know what you're looking for and how to look for it, first go to USA Spending and get very smart on the specific markets that you're going after, and be strategic about it. So the other thing I want to show you real quick is, okay, it goes full circle, right? So go into sam.gov. In order to do business with the federal government, you need to have a sam.gov registration. So once you're in and signed in, it looks a little bit like this. You go to this search button here, and it's important to pick the domain here. So we're going to look for contract opportunities. We're going to do facility management, same thing that we have a search for this current spending. So let's hit enter. And now we got 4,000 different results. So that is a lot. No human could be able to go through all of that. So let's get only the actives. Don't want inactives. Status. Initiative. So what active filters. So you can sort it by whatever kind of criteria you were looking for. All right. It says it's got actives already, but one of the things I've noticed in sam.gov is that there's a lot of opportunities in here sometimes that are not flagged as inactive, even though they're a couple of years old. Some of the other ways to kind of cull this list a little bit and to go only after things you're specifically looking for. I like to advise clients on thinking the long game and going after these sources sought in pre-solicitations. Also, if we can look at a specific set aside, so we got total or partial small business set aside, 8A, hub zone, SDVOSBs, women owned, economically disadvantaged, Eyes of Bees, Indian owned, etc. So once you start kind of leveling up your government contracting game, though, you'll get familiar with this term called the NACE code, also called the NIAC code. Um, and that's important because those codes is what the SBA uses to determine what is or is not a small business. Some of those, let's go back over here, for example, because we can look this all up in this user-friendly website, industry code. So we got the product service category. That's another code that's very specific to a product or service. And you can see here's the top ones that are coming up under facilities management. So missile components, that seems a little odd to me. IT and telecom facilities, okay, that seems more relevant. Operation of government R&D facilities, okay. So these are what the government uses as a product service category code. So that's getting more into the minute details of a specific product or service. The NACE code is also pretty important as well, because again, we are looking at one thing, facilities management, which could mean, infinite amount of things to a specific person or specific company. And this is what the government is classifying this across all the agencies. Again, we didn't specify a specific agency, and this data set here is going through. DoD is the big one, and it's got Missile Defense Agency, NASA, DOE, FAA, so on and so forth. So one of the things that's important to understand about the federal government is that it's not a monolith. It's made up of different departments and agencies and offices. So once you start getting smart on federal government procurement, you'll know that the specific office, which isn't even listed on here, and it would be when we download this. Let's just download this so we can see all the data that's in there. So we're going to go back to our Sam.gov. We have looked at specific facilities management. Let's go back here and look at the industry codes, and we'll just select a few of these guys. So let's look for the R&D code. R&D code. No. Another finding there, huh? Weird. Yeah. This website isn't the best. They've crammed in so many things under these domains that it's kind of a big old mess, frankly. You'll find a lot of SaaS products out there that save folks time on this. And you can download this whole thing too in a CSV file and kind of build it into your own pipeline. And you can also save these searches. So I can save each one of these. I have a couple different ones that are saved. But let's go back out of here again. A lot of folks that I see recently on YouTube and stuff are talking about, going after some of these contracts that, they can Google a company to do it for them. And I think that is a very risky strategy. It may win a couple contracts in the short term. However, I don't think they're going to be set up for success because there's lots of other nuances that can get them in a lot of trouble. One thing in particular is the excessive pass-through FAR clause. So as an example, things that come out as a SDVOSB, a service-disabled veteran-owned set-aside, and I had a client the other day telling me that the contracting officer, so there's 20 different ones for this service-disabled veteran. I had actually, he was a prospective, not a client. And he was telling me, what was going on with this particular situation. So the contracting officer said they weren't allowed to subcontract on this service-disabled veteran on set-aside. And he was asking me, what we should do about it. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. The reason being is you are allowed to subcontract. In many cases, you need to actually ask permission to subcontract. There's a consent to subcontracting, a lot of opportunities out there. So you really need to understand the subcontract or the contract that you're going after. And so anyway, this guy, I asked him, okay, well, I don't think that's illegal. That's definitely not illegal in my mind. It would be interesting to say that they would not allow them to subcontract at all. So I said, well, what was your subcontracting plan? And he was like, oh, I was going to subcontract it all to this one company in a different state that is just a small business. I said, well, wait a minute, time out. So you mean to tell me that your entity as a service disabled veteran owned small business was going to subcontract all the work out to another small business, and then the government contracting specialist said you can't do that? That makes sense. The SBA and the service disabled vet, the VA, and that's who the end customer was here. Um, they want to keep that money to the set aside that's specified. They don't want them to pass that through, or some terms I've seen recently are middlemanning and Fed flipping. Again, those strategies may work in a couple of smaller procurements, but they are someone who continues that practice as they level up is going to get in some serious, you know what, at some point. So if you're doing that strategy right now, just be careful on what you're doing. Make sure you read that full contract and make sure in particular that you are providing a good work, because when you subcontract that stuff out, you relinquish that control. And anything that that subcontractor does or doesn't do when you're the prime, that will come back to bite you, or, other things. So anyway, just a word of advice to those folks, because I've had two different clients this year that have lost their butts on proposals doing exactly that. So don't let that be you. Be smart about this game. It is a game. It's a hustle. It's a grind. There's no get rich quick. But if you do the right things consistently and you look at the federal government contracts that you're looking to do work in, you get smart in those industries. You understand the players. And, I would advise too, if you are, say, a minority woman owned business, it would behoove you to team with other companies that do similar work, such as hub zone companies, historically underutilized business zones, and service disabled veteran owned small businesses. The reason you want to do that is, is a couple reasons. One, you always want to be networking, always want to be partnering. I'm a big believer in a rising tide lifts all boats, and your partner today could be the catalyst for you to win bigger and bigger contracts. In some cases, too, those partners today may be competitors next go around, right? So a lot of people use the term competimates, which I really like, or frenemies. But it's important to team with other companies that are doing similar work. Like, think of the 80-20 rule. You may have 80% of those skills and capabilities that overlap, but that other 20% is maybe what a customer specifically needs. Also, if you're a small disadvantaged minority-owned, woman-owned business, and you are targeting a piece of work and it happens to go to a service disabled veteran-owned set aside, you could be locked out of that work. And if you partner with somebody that has that socioeconomic designation, you can team with them to get about 49% of that work. Again, the excessive pass-through is there for a reason. It's to kind of eliminate these pass-throughs or these drop ships that the primes do not provide a lot of value. And generally speaking, if you're outsourcing more than 70% of that work, you need to be aware that that is something that could come back to haunt you, in particular if there's any requirements in the contract, which there may well be, and you're just not aware of, because there's sections H and I's that have a lot of flow downs in there. And it could come back to bite you basically with a one sentence that said, hey, 52-219-9 was in here, which means you have to have a small business subcontracting plan, and ignorance is no excuse of the law. So just be careful out there. Again, not to dissuade you from doing government contracts, but it is a grind. There is no get rich quick schemes. On average, it takes companies between 18 months and 3 years. So if you are working with anybody who guarantees you can win a government contract in 3 months, I would really be careful where you spend your money, because in reality, there are no such things as guarantees in life. There's only probabilities. Again, I'm John Barker with PTW, and I can guarantee you that if you work with me, you will increase your odds of success doing federal government contracts. So appreciate you all staying to the end of this. I hope you learned something. Feel free to ask any questions, and have a wonderful weekend. Peace.